recording?
I just clicked it, my
Okay,
friend.
sorry.
Good words.
Didn't get it until.
Yeah. Anyway, welcome to our monthly education committee meetings. These used to be private and they were so good, we said, let's make them public. So this evening we are excited to host yet another event. We are recording this and we will upload it to our YouTube channel pretty quickly when the event's over. So I'm going to turn it over to Emily Heller from Fredericksburg City, who is part of our education committee. Go ahead, Emily. Kick it off.
Karen. As Karen said, my name is Emily Heller and I'm on VSTE's Education Committee, and we are so excited to introduce Tisha Poncio from Wakelet. And she is just about to celebrate her 1-year anniversary with Wakelet. And she's going to share her journey and help us understand how Wakelet could be used by teachers as an engagement tool and an instructional tool. So I'm going to hand it over to Tisha.
Thanks, Emily. Thanks, Karen. I'm so excited to be with all of you actually today. This is one of my favorite stories to share because it's super ironic. But I'm just going to go ahead and say before I start, those of you that are with me live, if you want to use the chat, I will be checking the chat. So if you have questions as I'm moving along the presentation, please don't feel like you have to hold on to those. I will stop periodically and answer those. I also have a little bit of a collaborative activity that we're going to do together so that you can practice using Wakelet before I set you off on your own after our hour together. So Wakelet is safe, and that's the very first thing I want to say to you. You can see here, COPA, FERPA, CSPC compliant. We work with I Keep Safe. So safety is very, very top of mind for all of us at Wakelet. We're also an AWS member, a Google partner, a Microsoft partner. So we work with lots of different companies, and we have lots of partnerships going on. I'll talk about those as we practice using Wakelet and as I tell you a little bit more about Wakelet. So before I tell you what Wakelet does and how it's going to help you, I want to tell you my story. So as you know, I am Wakelet's digital learning specialist, and I was a former public school teacher in Texas for 21 years. So I ended my 21-year career last year. And in true veteran teacher style, once I hit 21 years, I was really resistant because I had been doing digital learning, digital coaching with my teachers for 13 years. And of course, was also doing classroom stuff. I was working K through 12. So I was moving campuses all the time. But I had this really incredible opportunity in 2017 to create a student leadership technology team. And so that's who you see right here. SWAT stands for Students Who Advocate Technology. And for all of my years of teaching, I've always thought that I was being open-minded and giving voice and choice until I had these students that you see here in front of me. And so Wakelet continued to pop up every conference I went to, local conferences, ISTE, whatever conference I was at, I kept hearing about Wakelet, and people, knowing that I was really into technology and also digital coaching and knew that I was vetting tools for my own teachers, kept pushing Wakelet to me, and I kept resisting because I've always said, you know, you either are a veteran teacher or you know a veteran teacher. And a lot of times we get in that route where we just feel like, you know, we know best. I'm not going to try anything new. I figured it out. I'm where I need to be. But one day I went to work, and of course, being a digital learning coach as well as a classroom teacher, I had to be in two places at once. I was expected to run PLC groups this particular week with all of the content areas on my campus. And then I was also expected to get these students to meet those learning goals for the Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills. And I wasn't sure how I was going to be in two places at once, just like every other teacher. I had that problem. And so I decided to test out the theory of Wakelet. And I'm going to show you the example, the real example that I used. What I did is I took a lesson plan for that whole week, and I just put it in a Wakelet, and I thought, okay, well, let's see, let's really test it. I don't think it's going to work. So I will show you that lesson plan a little bit later on. I made it a student pace lesson plan. I wanted my students to be autonomous with it. I wanted to give them voice and choice. So I put it in their learning management system and said, I'm in PLCs. This all needs to be done by the end of the week. You can start at the bottom, the top, the middle, however you see fit for yourself, but it all needs to be finished by the end of the week. And I really didn't have a lot of faith that Wakelet was going to do anything for me until the end of the week. And it was the very first time ever that all of my students had turned in every single piece that I had asked them to turn in. They were talking about the learning material. They were interacting and collaborating with each other. And it made me take pause because I really wasn't sure that was going to happen. So again, I really wasn't sold on it yet. So I decided to test it out one more time. I always have given my students digital portfolios assignments. I have believed in that since 1999. So now I'm aging myself. But I believe that it really helps the learning stick with the students. So I gave them their typical digital portfolio assignment and said, here are some tools that you can use. I was a Google certified trainer. So of course I said Google Sites is going to be the end all be all for you. And, but here are these other choices. And I just happened to list Wakelet, and the 3 young ladies on the front row that you see there, they were my rebellious students. And they said, we're not using Google Sites. We are sorry to break it to you. I know it hurts your feelings, but we're going to use Wakelet. And I kind of laughed, and there was some banter back and forth about them using Wakelet because, again, I did not believe in the power of it. And so I gave them their single point rubric, popped that in the LMS, and we went on our way. And then it was time for checkpoint 1. And Julie on that first row, all the way to the left, turned in the most magnificent piece of work that I have ever seen as a teacher. And I'm an Enneagram 1. So if you know about that, I always expect perfection. And I had to really sit down and sort of humble myself and say to Julie, I want you to validate why you chose Wakelet. And then I want you to teach me how to do this because I am blown away. And I'm going to show you some of the student portfolios so that you can see that up close and in action. And I don't want you to feel like you have to take any notes. I'll pop some things in the chat, but I'm going to send Karen all of the resources at the very end, as well as you, so she can just disseminate those however she sees fit. You're going to have a lot of information, but a lot of resources for you to go back and review. So that is a little bit of my story. And it really has changed my life. It changed the way I viewed student engagement. It changed the way that I really embrace student choice and voice. And from there, my students started doing some incredible things, presenting globally, running student-led podcasts, using Wakelet to house all of that, presenting from Wakelet. It kind of was incredible and grew legs that I didn't expect. But there's my contact information. So Tisha@Wakelet.com. It's super easy. I will answer your email pretty much 24/7. I'm always checking my email. I also will give you my Wakelet profile so you don't have to write that down. I'm also on all the social medias, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Facebook is a little more private, but LinkedIn, even TikTok. So whatever you're using, I would love to connect with you there. So Jennifer Gonzalez, if you've not heard of her, Cult of Pedagogy, you can look her up, but she says a well-designed curation project requires a ton of critical thinking. And if you think about teachers today and all the time, we're always so tired. And part of it is because we are constantly critically thinking through things. We're constantly planning. We're constantly making decisions. We're constantly collaborating. And so when you think about how much we're doing it, I want you to think, what would it look like if you sort of gave a little bit of that to your students in that learning environment, whatever that looks like for you. And what happens is I feel like this piece, this curation piece with the critical thinking is really what set my students up, some of them, for creating their own businesses. And that was not part of that rubric. That was not my expectation, but every student, with the exception of 1 or 2 in my class, created their own business. So I'll show you some of that as we move forward as well. So Wakelet is a curation tool, and that is really how it's best known. It will take any resource on the internet, anything that you're already using, anything that teachers are already using in their classroom, and you can put that inside of a Wakelet. So that is one of the key elements for me that really pulled me in. I didn't have to change what I was using. If I was using Flipgrid or Google or Microsoft or Nearpod or Brain Pop, whatever it was going to work with Wakelet. And that's really the key. It also improves collaboration. So Wakelet is unlimited collaborators, and we're going to practice collaborating today so you can see what that looks like. The other piece to that is every collection. So you see this picture here, classic novel reading list, William Shakespeare, each of those boxes are collections. And the great thing about these collections is you can share them using one single link. And for me, that made life a whole lot easier when I was emailing parents or administrators, or even putting that in the learning management system for my students. The next thing that I will tell you, if you don't already know, digital citizenship is at the heart of everything I do. I have believed in digital citizenship and information literacy since about 2005. I really started studying it with my own students in my classroom. And what happened with Wakelet is it gave me this platform in this space to really drive home digital citizenship skills. We were having conversations about what to put out there. We were having conversations about making decisions on what information was correct. And I was not doing that on a daily basis until I started using Wakelet. I'm going to pause because I see there is a comment from Emily. Yeah, it honestly was amazing. And that is why, like, I just didn't believe it. And the truth is, once I really opened that classroom up to see what would happen instead of limiting myself and limiting my students, that's really where their power came in. So I've told you that those students were way more engaged than they ever were before. And I really believe it's because Wakelet has this ability to bring in all these multimedia artifacts. And that's really what they're used to. They were used to consuming material on Instagram and TikTok and Facebook. They were doing it every single day for hours and hours. And so because Wakelet will take these really ugly hyperlinks and URLs and make them into this really beautiful space, it was intriguing and engaging for those students. I've already talked about communication, the communication between student to student, but also between me and the students really just raise the bar so much higher. And I'll show you some digital citizenship stuff and how some teachers are streamlining curriculum. But I want to say this because I didn't mention it, but I told you digital citizenship was really at the heart of what I always do. And because of that, I found the ISTE standards. So I always like to say this, I had the ISTE standards in my classroom, in my office, above the copier. I was always sharing those standards, and I had not found a tool that would allow me to hit the majority of those ISTE standards until I found Wakelet. And that is really one of the most powerful things as well. So I'll show you that. What I saw with my students is they were understanding the material that I was giving them. So you'll see an example in a bit. I gave them a graphic design module. In the past, I have taught graphic design and broadcasting and yearbook and all sorts of things. But when I put this graphic design module into a Wakelet collection, I saw that they were understanding it better. They were watching the YouTubes, they were going to my PDF, they were practicing and creating, and it was all housed together. The next thing I noticed is that they were analyzing things. So now they were being a little bit more critical of what I was giving them. So they were questioning things more. And I love inquiry-based learning. So I loved that I wasn't having to prompt them for these questions. They were naturally saying, well, we read this article, Ms. Poncio, and then we saw this, and then we saw this, and we think this might be a better resource for your students next year. Then they started not only evaluating themselves with student-led conferences, but then they were peer-to-peer evaluating. And I have said this for years, but even adults, you and I both know, do not love critiquing each other past, yeah, that looks really good. It looks great. I don't want to hurt your feelings. I don't really know what to say here. So I started creating different peer-to-peer feedbacks and evaluations to get them in this comfortable space. Now, I will tell you, we had tears in the beginning. They were critiquing each other's Wakelet collections and critiquing portfolios, and there were actual tears. But by the end of the year, they were doing this in such a beautiful, natural way that I knew it had actually stuck with them. So yes, the social media space, I'm telling you, we can fight it or we can like let it work with us. And that's really what I try to do. So Wakelet, I told you, I started with my lesson plan and my learning standards. And that is just kind of how I operate. I want to know what my learning standards are. I want to know what my purpose is. What's the goal? So that if it's clear to me, it's clear to my students, it's clear to my parents and my administrators. Then what I noticed is they were actively learning. They weren't just being passive about it. Now they were asking questions. They were talking to each other. They were up moving around. It was a different learning environment. The collaboration piece, we never would have pulled off a student-led podcast had we not practiced that collaboration piece. And there are lots of ways to do this. I always say start small and then work your way up. But by the end of my career last year, they were doing this all on their own, really without me even telling them what to do because they had been doing it for so long. Creativity. Now, I am one of those that went to school and felt like the creativity was sort of beat out of me from third grade on, and told myself for a really long time that I wasn't creative. But the truth is we're all creative. And Wakelet allowed me to pull back in that creativity piece for my students, not just with graphic design, but personal branding, how to make things look good, even if it was just really basic. I'll show you that as we continue. I've talked about communication, but I'm going to show you some ways that you can use Wakelet to improve communication, even with your parents or your administrators. And then if all you want to do is organize your resources, it will also let you do that. So whatever technology level you or your students are on, it will solve a problem for you in some way. And then I've talked citizenship. You're going to see as I go on and show you these use case examples, you're going to see how citizenship plays into that. So I've told you already that Wakelet will allow you to save content from anywhere. That means podcasts, Google Teams, Microsoft Teams, Google Drive, Flipgrids, YouTube, Adobe Spark, formerly known as Adobe Spark, now Adobe Creative Cloud. You can create in Canva. You can upload all of your Canva stuff. I'm going to show you those examples. You're going to see that and hopefully be inspired by that. I've told you it's easy to share in 2 clicks. Essentially, you're copying that URL and you're just pasting it wherever you want it to go, email, text message, GroupMe, WhatsApp, wherever it needs to go. And then you can invite students to collaborate. So it's really important for you to note that this is a real live collaboration. So you'll see your students above. You also can collaborate and nobody has to have an account, which is a beautiful thing if you just want to practice with your students, right? You just want to learn this application yourself. And then multiple use cases, you're going to see, I'm going to give you so many examples that you're going to be a little overwhelmed, but you're going to remember it in a couple of weeks and say, oh yeah, there was that one example Tisha showed. As you can see, it's engaging. You'll see that as I continue on, but any multimedia can be embedded into that Wakelet collection, and it really just works for everyone. So I'm always asked this, how is it different than Pinterest? Well, I'm going to tell you it's different than Pinterest because it's going to serve the educators and the students, all of that entire learning community. It is like Pinterest, but with power and purpose for learning in the classroom. And that's the difference. You see here that it does portfolios, very similar to Seesaw, and it will allow you to do newsletters just like S'more, but for free. You can collaborate just like you do on Padlet. And honestly, if you want to put a Padlet in a Wakelet, you absolutely can. We're not going to tell you you can't. But remember, those collaboration collections are unlimited. And then sharing resources are really easy. I'll show you some examples. I have an example of Harvard who they have used Wakelet as their microsite. So you'll see that. And then I will also show you some lesson plans and some templates that you can take with you as well. So Wakelet does a lot, but a lot more than meets the eye. And that's what I want you to remember. So I'm going to show you, and you're going to see the versatility and how powerful that is. You're going to also see and be reminded that you're not limited. You can make as many collections as you want, and so can your students, and you can collaborate with as many people as you want on a single collection. I've already mentioned this, but I'm just going to say it one more time for those that are watching. Wakelet is safe, GDPR, COPA, FERPA, CSPC, New York Ed Law 2D compliant. If you have any questions about that, please reach out to me, Tisha@Wakelet.com, and we will take care of that for you. So what does a day in a Wakelet classroom look like? Well, it could be just curating resources. Maybe that's all you want to do. You want to start small. Maybe you just want to curate your recipes and that's it, holiday recipes, or maybe you want to put together a birthday list with all of your Amazon links. You absolutely can do that. It's very simple. But you also could use it for lesson plans. So self-paced lesson plans, however you want to coordinate those lesson plans. There are a million different ways to do that, but make it very content specific. You also can give students assignments. So digital research, storytelling, presentations. I think a lot of, students are used to completion. So they're used to, being handed everything on a silver platter. Wakelet is really going to push them in this uncomfortable space of them creating and showcasing their own learning. And then class newsletters, but also district newsletters. I'll show you some examples of that. The truth is, you just pick one way. So today I'm going to show you a ton of ways, and I just want you to think through, what problem are you trying to solve right now? Think about my own story. I needed to be in two places at once. Wakelet was that solution. I needed a digital portfolio platform. Wakelet was that solution. So it really is going to be versatile and really tailored to you. So some of the incredible features that I used, one was Immersive Reader. And if you are not familiar with Immersive Reader, you need to go research that now. It will translate in over 60 languages, and it will help classrooms where there is a language barrier between students. And I taught for a really long time. I had students that literally would not talk to each other because of language barriers. This was incredible because they could collaborate on a collection and those students could translate that text. There's lots of other options there. I will show you what that looks like. We're going to make time for that so you can see that. The other thing I want to say, and I have been asked about this very often in the last month, lots of schools are moving into Schoology and Canvas. And so the question is, how will it work with Schoology and Canvas? Well, it's really easy to share a collection and grab that embed code and put that into your learning management system. So if you have any questions about that, make sure you reach out to me, because you may not have a question until it's absolutely time for it to happen. So we have resources for that, and I have included that in your VSTE Wakelet collection that I made for you. Copying collection. So any collection you create, you can actually enable copying, and you'll see a lot of the stuff that I give you, a lot of the templates, you are going to be able to make a copy and then you own that copy. So it is your collection in your account and you can go edit what that looks like. But it's also a great way to, I always think, if you want to guide your students in the learning, it's like at the bowling alley, if you need the bumpers so that you can hit the pins, it's very similar to that. If you kind of want to guide the learning for the students, you can set the template up and then your students can copy your collection. And then we talked collaboration. We're going to practice that so you can see what that looks like. I have a little sandbox for you. Before we move on, though, I just want to let you know that there is a Wakelet browser extension. And so you can actually install the extension like I have here. And when I click on that Wakelet extension, you see the dialog box pops up immediately and it gives me some choices. I can change the title of this website. I can change the description. I can save this for later. That's what save to bookmarks mean. I can create a new collection right here, or I can add it to an existing collection that I've already created. So you can see I have a lot of different collections here, but the extension is really, really helpful, especially if you like to work fast and move fast. Now, I don't use the extension as often, but I do use the app, and that is what I also want you to know. So one of the ways that I use the app, especially while I was still teaching, is I would create collections and I would go put them in an LMS, and my students may say, well, this link doesn't work. And this, what about this? And what about that? And I would be able on the go to go into this app and edit and do what I needed to do for my students. If I was at the doctor, it was really easy to do that. I'll show you some ways to do that, but the extension and the app, they're going to help you save time. So I've added some resources. If you're interested in those resources, just let me know. The other thing I just wanted to share with you, because you are VSTE, I'm actually working on an ISTE Wakelet blog to kind of showcase how Wakelet is going to help teachers and students meet each of those standards. So as soon as that is published, I will send that over to you, Karen, so that you can have that. But it is in progress right now. We're hoping to get it finished by ISTE so that we can get that out. So I'm going to show you, this is actually a collection for you. So all of you that are here with me, I'm actually going to put it in the chat and show you how to do that. I've created this collection. You can see I added an image at the top and a little description, and I have created a column layout. And the column layout is new, but I will tell you this column layout is found right here in this little design tool. And it is so great for individualized learning. There are a billion ways to use this column layout. Now, I just used this specifically for you, and here's how I'm going to share it. I'm either going to grab the URL up here at the top, or I'm going to click that share button. When I click the share button, you'll notice that this collection is unlisted. That means only people with the link will be able to see this. I, of course, could change it to private if I didn't want anybody else to see it. And I could change it to public. Public is going to push that to your main Wakelet profile. So again, you always want to know what your purpose is for that collection. So I'm going to pop this in the chat because I want you to have it and just show you what that looks like. And then I will also email this to you, Karen, just so you have it all later. So we're going to look at this, and then I'm going to do a very quick demo at the very end to get you started. But on this collection, I put the privacy policy immediately. If you have any questions about that, let me know. Send people to me. It's here, and we can discuss it and talk about it. I know this is like top of conversation all the time, especially if you are not familiar. Web3 is coming, which is not part of my presentation, but I will tell you, if you don't know about Web3, you should do some research. And everything about Web3 for me is like, oh no, security and privacy. So I always like to start with that. I also want to mention that we were just approved on EdSurge. So you should see us pop in on this product index. We are there. That just happened this week. And then I added a YouTube video as one of the artifacts, Wakelet in 5 minutes. So if you need a refresher from this session, you can just go to the YouTube channel and watch that. I've also given you an article on how to personalize your Wakelet profile as a website or a professional portfolio. And then I've included an entire video how-to playlist. So this is essentially every question that you could possibly have after the demo. You can go here and you can play those videos. Then I have pulled together some inspiration. So we have a Wakelet blog site, and we very regularly have educators writing how they're using Wakelet in their classrooms. And it really just is a sense of inspiration for you. You can search by keyword. And then if you just want to look at a graphic, which a lot of people love this graphic, it highlights how you can use Wakelet from pre-K all the way up to higher ed or for personal use. And of course, this is just a very limited list. We have so many different ways. I think one of the ways that isn't listed that I have loved sharing is one school decided to create a collection, a lost and found collection, because they were tired of all of the lost and found things at the end of the year. So they made a collection and took pictures of all of the pieces of lost and found and sent that out to their parents, which I thought was a really basic but genius way to use Wakelet. There's also some ways to use it if you want to surf solo with Wakelet, or you want to collab with Wakelet, or again, if you want to use it for personal use. A lot of these are popular with educators, as you know, because it's saving them time. And I don't know if you are familiar with Miguel from TCA, but I work very closely with TCA and have put together a Wakelet course for TCA. And I love it because Miguel always gives me a hard time about SAMR not being research-based. He knows that I love research-based things, but I have so many schools in the US that are requiring their teachers to use SAMR as an integration model. And so I put this together just in case you know somebody who has to use SAMR. Their district has told them to use SAMR over TPAC. This is just an at a glance, but it really just shows how you can use Wakelet on any of those levels. So those are photos, and that's what I want to note. You can see, yes, I love TPAC. Yes, I know. It always makes me laugh because that's one of the very first questions I ask districts. So I kind of know which way we're going. But I do want to know, you see, I've just uploaded some pictures. I've uploaded some URLs and some YouTube playlists. Now, what you're going to see on the example section is I have actually taken Wakelets and put them inside of a Wakelet. So a collection inside of a collection. And that's what you see on this column. Like this Chrome extension for teachers is a collection that I went and grabbed that URL, pasted it here into this little web address area, and it pops up like this. So I have these examples for you, and I actually want to go through those with you. So this is Brandy Reams. She's a kindergarten teacher. And the thing that she's most known for in the Wakelet community is her newsletters are incredible. So this is her Wakelet profile. So this is her main profile, her digital portfolio. You see that she has an @Brandy Reams. If you want, you could go to that little search bar up there and you could actually type Brandy Reams and her profile will come up. You also can do some exploring if you want some more inspiration. But I want to show you her newsletter. So you can see she has sectioned off her profile very much like a website. And as a web designer and web teacher for a lot of years, I have used almost every web design tool there is out there. This is the easiest for teachers. And also she owns all of this. So if she does leave her school district, it's all hers, right? And she doesn't have to go through the multiple different levels to get things published. So she's added a school supply list, but when we scroll down, you see her weekly newsletter. She has some archived, and then here are her brand new newsletters for this school year. So let me click on that. And we're just going to grab one. You see how she has put collections. Each of these is a collection inside of a larger collection. So that is why they look that way. We'll click on this one, week 3. And you'll see that some of it is text heavy, which is okay. Remember, what is the purpose when you're creating the collections? And so here is her text. When I hover over that text, here is that immersive reader button that I was talking about. And if you've not played around with this, definitely do so. As it loads, it will read the text to you. I'm not going to hit play, but I want you, this is one of the things I want you to practice when we're finished. You can play the text. You can also go into text preferences, change the size, the spacing, the font, the themes, the colors. Then you can also go in and turn on or off syllables, nouns, verbs, objectives. There are so many ways to use this. Reading preferences, you can do line focus. There's that translate button. But I want to show you this really cool thing. I've turned on picture dictionary, and here is what that means. When I click on a word, it brings up the picture, and then it also will play. So it will read to your students or to yourself. So immersive reader is on every collection and every piece of text. And so here is her newsletter. She has a dress code section. She's linked to her school district's website. She has a homework calendar. That's a PDF that she's uploaded. She talks about binders and behavior, and then she sectioned it off on daily resources with YouTube videos. This is so beneficial for parents. I want to say that I'm a parent. I have an almost 7th grader, an almost senior, and a 21-year-old. And I will tell you that was the most difficult thing. I didn't know how to support at home, but how easy for her to just copy that link and send that out to her parents. Everything they need is here. They have one spot that they need to go to. So she's vetted and curated all of these resources for those students. So a lot of the elementary teachers that I worked with, this was their favorite thing for Brandy Reams. And again, that is in your example collection. So you have that at your fingertips. Here's another really basic example that I want to show you. This is from Todd Davis. And it's very simple, but I also want to remind you, simplicity sometimes is super powerful. So he put together an entire column layout of Chrome extensions, and he had some tweets in there. You can see you can add tweets if that's what you want to add. He added student interaction extensions, accessibility extensions, utilities. So this was really to serve his teachers. Time saver extensions. You can see it got incredible feedback here. And that's one of the things I want you to see is that you can actually give a reaction. I have used these reactions as a little mini rubric for my students when I'm doing formative assessment. And so however creative you want to get with these reaction tools, you absolutely can. I also could bookmark. Remember, we talked bookmarks earlier. I could save Todd's collection as a bookmark for later, and you'll see it saves it for me. I could also share this out if I feel like I want to share it with the Twitter community. Maybe I want to pop it into a QR code. I can do this really easily. I love this. I will tell you, during remote learning, I had a theater teacher who wanted a ticketless system for her theater production, and we actually put a Wakelet together with the Google form, the instructions for the parents. We had the digital, the playbook, and I'm losing my words now, but you know, the little book that has all the sponsors and the pictures and everything listed. And then we printed these QR codes out and put them all over the school so that people could just scan them with their phone. And that was how we kept track of that. So there's lots of ways to share different collections as well. And there's that embed button. So I want to show you what that looks like. The embed button is really easy. You can customize your layout. And then what you'll do is copy that embed code. And then you would embed that into your Schoology or Canvas or whatever learning management system you're using. And it will look just like this. They can scroll through exactly as it looks. So that is the share button. Let me see. So that was Todd's example. And then let me take you back. So I've included that student leadership lesson plan, the infamous Tisha lesson plan that she didn't think would work. It is here. I'm going to show you what that looks like. I'm going to show you the formative assessment piece that I did with my students. And this is exactly, I haven't really changed it a whole lot. This is what it looked like. I put in my learning goals because I always let my learning goals in there. I want to make sure we all know what we're doing. And then I linked it to Google Classroom. In Google Classroom, it was linked back to this collection. So my students would not get lost because they had a tendency to get lost. I had a book study. I was already using Flipgrid, so I just linked those Flipgrids there. I popped in some books here that I wanted them to go buy and purchase. Yes, I love it. Thank you, Emily. Again, book reflections, PDFs, whatever works for you, whatever you're doing, just tailor that collection to you and your students. Here's an example of creativity. I had them actually creating their Enneagram results. So they had to take the Enneagram test for our leadership piece. And so I had them actually collaborate on a collection, and this is that collection. So they went and designed their Enneagram number. I gave them the collaborative collection. I'm going to show you how I did that so you can see. Once I had it created, I hit the share button, and instead of just sharing for them to consume, I shared it so they would collaborate. And that is the difference between the two of these. The collaborate has the invite code here. So you can copy that link. You can do a QR code, or if you were like me, you could use Google Classroom. I was able to choose my class. Let me go back to that. See if it pops up. I was able to choose my class and an assignment, and then I could go in and customize that assignment. You can see that Wakelet link is linked right here. So I'm ensuring that my students have the right collaboration link, and then I would assign it that way. So here's what it looks like. They went in and added, and you can see that it shows their name. It will ask them to add their name. You could have your students actually not enter their name. They could enter an ID number if that works better for you. First name, first initial, last initial. However, it's working in your classroom is what I suggest. But it also will date stamp that. So I could really just check to see if they were doing it on time, because they love to pretend that they did it when they were supposed to. But here's how I use the reactions. So each one of these cards has a reaction button. And so for, Michael here, I can't see what he has. Something went wrong. So he shared it in Google. Maybe he didn't give me the sharing rights. So I'm going to give him a light bulb. And for my students, they knew a light bulb meant that we needed to have a conversation. So they would come see me. or I would remember to talk to them about it. Charity also got that because I needed to talk to her about her layout. But then I was able to very quickly see which students needed the most work on graphic design elements. This was really easy for me to grade. Remember, I was trying to be in like 14 places at once. Wyatt got 100. Wyatt was a second-year student. Wyatt had already been through the graphic design. He had improved so much that I just right off the bat gave him a 100. And he knew that 100 was going to go into the grade book. And so he was really confident. The great thing about this is it's giving those students immediate feedback, but also what you can do is if you have them add in their work and their creativity, you can have them do peer-to-peer feedback. So I think I would ask them to do 1 point of polish for each of their peers and 1 point of shine. And so that just kept them very focused on the feedback that they were giving instead of saying to each other, it looks really great, Elijah, you can move on, because the truth is we always can improve. So that is one way that I used a collection for formative assessment that went along with that leadership lesson plan. You can see I made a little mini playlist here with YouTube, and then I had them do some conflict resolution. This is the assignment and for that week that they finished everything. So we were able to move on. I've included that for you in your resources. I also have a substitute plan here, and I'm not going to open it up, but it's a template and you can make a copy. I will show you. Let me see if I can do this. So I'm going to use this example. This is a student portfolio, but when you click on that substitute lesson plan template here, you will have these 3 drama dots. That's what I call these. You're going to click on them and it's going to have an extra set of options. And you are going to see copy collection above export as PDF. When you click copy collection, it's going to allow you to copy it and save it to your profile. And then you get to go in and edit and do whatever you want to with it. So any template that I've shared with you is copyable, and that includes that sub lesson plan. The whole purpose of this was I was frustrated with substitutes coming in, and my students would tell them that they were supposed to do one thing. My students had a different lesson in their learning management system. It created some miscommunication between student, sub, parent, admin, and of course I had to be out. And so what I did is I shared that sub plan on a QR code, printed it out, set it on my desk because the sub could not have district technology, but she did have her phone. So she could scan the QR code and there was the student lesson plan so she could see what they were supposed to be doing as well. This one I love to share because this is the 5E instructional model. This is a template again. So because I own it, you will not see that the 3 dots. When you go to this collection, you will see the 3 dots and you can copy it, but this is just a template for you and you can go in and edit. You can add, take away, do whatever you want with this. This just helps you guide your learning. And this is a great way to get started with your students and practice and do what I did. See if it works for your classroom. So that is included in your resources. And then there is a STEM. So this is a school in Florida that wanted to do a STEM night. And now they're doing a school showcase with all of their STEM projects. So I want you to go look at that one. I'm kind of rushing through this because I knew I would have so much for you and I want to do a little demo. This is the San Antonio project. This is actually based on Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills for Social Studies, I believe 6th grade. And this student actually did research on traveling to San Antonio, researching all the different foods that originated in San Antonio, some places to visit, lodging. He had to calculate all of that up. And so it really just has them go through that critical thinking process and show their learning again. The great thing about that is if you have your students do something like this, they can legitimately present now from this Wakelet collection. So they're doing everything in one space. And yes, this is my son, so I do use him as a guinea pig. But I will tell you that Wakelet has been really incredible for him as far as accommodations. He's a childhood cancer survivor. And if you click on that, you can actually then click on his profile, but he has cognitive overload. So he gets really overwhelmed really often. And so even really simple assignments for a student, I say regular student, but like for you and I, a really simple assignment is going to overwhelm him. He used the social studies Venn diagram in a Wakelet to help separate the information out so he could visually see it and then write his essay for his social studies project. So you can click on, if you saw what I did, I was looking at his collection. This is in your resources. And then I just clicked his name. And when you click people's name, you can go to their profile and you can see what other things they have there. So there are some examples for a real student for you. And then drinking water safety. I love to talk about real world problems and how are we going to solve those problems. I'm sure you're familiar with the I'm losing the sustainable goals. So this is drinking water safety. This was a collaborative project by students. You can see their sweet little faces there, and they had to solve a problem here, and they put it all into a Wakelet. So each of them has a column with their answers and their presentations. This is just another great way to use that column layout. You can look at that as well. And then lastly, and this is one of my favorite activities. If you don't know Claudio Zavala, he Texas educator. He just recently went to Adobe EDU. So he's working with Adobe now. He put out a challenge for an Adobe Spark template where you take your picture and then you put some words with it. And then I shared that collaboration link on Twitter, and all of these educators added their creations. What I love about this is you can apply this essentially to any content area, any grade level. I recently challenged some digital citizenship teachers in Texas to have their students put a picture and then what are the traits of a good digital citizen, right? Like, so then they're writing it out and thinking through that. But this is just one really fun way to use Wakelet with some of those other creativity tools. It's just so much fun to see that. And so you can do that as an end of the year activity just to practice. So I'll close that one out. Yeah, it is really cool to see the collaboration effort in that regard. So I'm still going to do the little demo for you. I want to just mention we have a Wakelet certified course. It is free. So you can click on this and it will walk you through Wakelet. I've added a couple of choice boards that I put together just so that you can practice. So if you just want to put a photo album together or you want to just organize content, I've given you a little bit of a choice board and some challenges there. I've also given you a link if you want to embed those collections. Of course, there's so many resources. I don't want to completely overwhelm you. So if there's not anything that you see that's beneficial, all you have to do is email me and I will find you an example or help you create one. So support@wakelet.com if you're having issues. Of course, you have me. You can email me anytime and I will pass that on to the team. Wakelet is actually on every platform. We just added TikTok. So if you are on TikTok and you want to add Wakelet, you can. There's all my information. And then lastly, my profile, which I have pulled up here. It did not look like this overnight. So I just want to tell you, but there are so many professional educators out there using Wakelet as their professional digital portfolio. One of the things I did right away when Julie sat beside me, I'm going to show you that example in a minute. She sat beside me and I thought, why am I not creating this for myself so that I can showcase all the PD that I've done. So I started doing that, and that's kind of where that top part comes from. Here are all the templates I talked about for you. If you want to practice like a Meet the Teacher template for the fall, you could do that. Here are all of those student portfolios. There are about 10 to 12 in here. I'm going to show you a couple in just a minute so that you can see that example. There's that spark yourself creation. Here's some formative assessment ideas. You can take anything that you see here. And if it's not here and you still need something, definitely let me know. But there's that conferences, really just showcasing your PD and what you've done for PD or what you're learning. It's a really great way to start off. So I've included my profile for you. What I want to do right now is I want to practice before I show you these incredible portfolios. I want to practice collaboration. So I'm going to copy this collaboration link and I'm going to put it in the chat for you because I want you to see what it looks like when people join. So you're going to click that link. I'm going to hit refresh on this page and you'll see that we have a ton of other answers here on, we're just answering the question, what do you think about Wakelet so far? The great thing is that it really meets the users where they are. So if your students are introverts, and I know you don't believe it, but I actually am an introvert. If I'm in a large setting, I really don't want to speak in front of everyone. This is such a great way to have your students respond. They also could respond anonymously if you don't want them to put their names. Here is what I'll tell you. At the very top, you can see everyone's face. So I can see Karen has an account and Emily has an account, and we all have accounts, right? That's how I see our faces here. But remember to collaborate. You don't have to have an account. So some of you may be viewing without an account. The other thing I want to note, so Monica right here the other day added love it. I can move Monica's text around. I can edit Monica's text. I also can delete Monica's text. The reason that I can do that is because I own this collection. So you as the teacher would have the ability to remove things. Monica can do the same thing to her text. She's the one that added it. But Tracy over here cannot do anything to Monica's stuff. Only Tracy can edit Tracy's stuff. So I just want to make sure that you are understanding that piece. So it's real-time collaboration, and you as the collaborator can only edit, delete, or move the things that you're adding. So you cannot touch anybody else's, but the owner of the collection, the teacher typically in this case, is going to be able to delete and moderate. So this is just an example, and I went in and added some reactions so you can see, but really it's just everybody's doing it their own way. And I always say that there's a way, not the way. And that is something that my students really taught me. I was thinking portfolios had to be done in a systematic order. And the truth is they were like, no, we're going to use Wakelet. And they were right. So there is that collaboration piece. You guys cannot mess it up. So go paste some addresses, go add some text, go add in some pictures or upload a PDF. Or if you wanted, you could put a tweet in there. You could make a Flipgrid video. No one's done that yet. Flipgrid video, you could do that later if you want. If you like a YouTube video or you want to share some music with us, you can do that. You also can single sign on to any of these, and you can link those here. So those are all the options for adding. I'm going to close this out because we're about to wrap up. Here is a language portfolio from a French student, and I'm just going to scroll through. This is her actual collection. So she's showcasing her learning and putting it all into a Wakelet and giving it to her teacher. I'm scrolling down because I want you to see she's created, like I said, Flipgrid videos. And so she's uploaded those. This is her practicing her French language, and there it is. She recorded it in InShot and then uploaded it. But then I want you to see this piece. Her teacher went in and added in some feedback for her. So I will tell you that one of my requests to Wakelet has been feedback, and it's coming. We're getting there because teacher feedback, especially for me, I wanted to give students immediate feedback. I love the feedback loops. I thought it was so important. And it was something that I had not done in all those years of teaching, but it was one of the most powerful things whenever I'm giving them immediate feedback. You can also see she wrote some things out and she just took a picture and uploaded that as well. So this works with so many different things here. So that is one language portfolio. Here is a student profile that is a portfolio. So you can see she has done a lot of work. She used Canva, I'm guessing, to create these custom headers. And each of these little boxes, again, are collections. So she went in and made her resume. And if I backtrack for a minute, you'll see she has all sorts of sections here. And I will tell you, I think she saw my student Honora present, and that's kind of what gave her the inspiration. But this is incredible. Here's the thing. All of us can say that we're really good at video editing or digital designs, but the truth is we can say that all day, but the proof is actually here right in front of me. I can see that Abby knows how to use these skills, how to create these things. I know, Karen, I'm telling you, it is interesting, but as you all know, so many educators are really trying to figure out what maybe their next step is, or they're close to retirement or whatever. I have actually done personal coaching to show people how to put something like this together. It is so powerful. And it's not just powerful for you, but think about these students when they go apply for jobs. jobs, whether it's at like the local Sonic or Starbucks, or if they're really trying to get an internship. You know, your resume is a promise, but the portfolio is the absolute proof. So I've given you Abby's example. Here is my own student, Honora. I wasn't sure she's going to make it, you guys, but we got into Wakelet and she took off. She created her own business. She has very similar to what Abby has. She has linked her social media. So I did digital citizenship units with them. We talked social media. We talked why you would use LinkedIn. We talked about how to use, Instagram and Twitter for professional use, why it's important, how it's leaving a positive footprint in tech for good. But there she is with her jewelry business. And so she's gone in and actually pulled YouTube videos of herself singing at church so that she can showcase that she really does know how to sing and people can actually listen to that. She did the same thing with her band. All of her flute playing. She was like band president. And then she has graphic design here. So she showcases how she did all of that. I really recommend that you go to my profile because you'll see Julie's cake business. Incredible. It's incredible to look at. And then lastly, I have a Harvard School of Education. They are using Wakelet as a microsite here. And you can see that they're pulling in each of these collections are public. And they're just changing that view so that they can go in and show evidence of their different events here. Librarians have done this, schools have done it. There's so many different ways to do this. But what I want to do, since I've given you the resources, we have just a couple of minutes, I'm going to walk you through a really quick demo. So we're going to go to wakelet.com. If you haven't signed up for an account, you'll go to wakelet.com. You can do a single sign-on. Make sure you tell Wakelet that you're an educator. When you do that, you'll get to see this little classroom piece up here. There is not enough time to go over the classrooms piece, but if you are interested in that, I have some resources. You can email me and I will email those back to you. So when you get logged in, this is what your home screen looks like. Mine is pretty much a mess right now. You can see I've done a lot of different practicing, which is all the entitles. You also see that I have a little bell with a red dot. That is where people are following me or reacting to collections that I've created. Or if I'm following people, maybe they've updated a collection that I really like. So that is where that notification is going to happen. Just to give you one more tip, the 3 drama dots, you can go into account settings. If you ever need to change your email or password, this is where that's going to happen. So those 3 drama dots. So we're going to create a collection together. I'm just going to show you how that process works. We're going to use Web3 because that's what I've been talking about. So I gave it a title, Web3. I might put instructions here. So a lot of times for students, I like to use these emojis and give them instructions. So maybe that's what I do here. And then we'll just go in and we will put a collection inside of a collection. So there is your resources that I've popped in here. I can also upload an image, choose from a Giphy or choose from the library. I'm going to upload an image. So we'll go to the desktop and we'll do TPAC. Since we were talking about Sammer, we'll do TPAC here. So there's an image there. And if I wanted, I could go in and add a Flipgrid video. I've done that before. I've recorded the video of instructions, then I've had the text, however you want to do that. Now I need to decide, okay, is this for public or is this for private or unlisted? Well, I'm going to make it unlisted. And then now under settings, I need to decide, am I going to allow this to be copyable by other people? So you can toggle that on or off, totally up to you. And then you have the little design button. So media view is default. Compact just brings that all together. You see it's really tiny. And you also see that there is no text here. So I could change the text and I could add a description if I wanted. Back to that design button. Here is the grid layout that's going to be side by side in 2 columns. Mood board is actually going to adjust the size of everything and make it look really pretty. So it doesn't look pretty right now just because I only have 2 things, but it really looks like a magazine, very similar to that Adobe example. And then you've seen the column layout. I can add a cover image if I want to add that. So it's just a matter of uploading, creating, downloading, however creative you want to get with that. And then you also can add a background image as well. So once you're finished with all of that, you'll hit that share button and you can copy that link and drag it over. So that is my super quick demo. I want to make sure that I give you at least a little bit of time for questions. I'm not sure if you have any questions or if you're just feeling super overwhelmed, because I was overwhelmed the first couple of times that I heard about Wakelet. But do you have any last minute questions? Emily, Karen, anybody?
I don't have questions, but I can just share that I have used Wakelet a lot more over the last year as a coach, and it's great to collect your PDs and to kind of replace how-to documents with Wakelets. And then a fun thing I can share that I've done personally, and I think Karen will like this. My husband is also really into gardening, and he wants to make sure that we only use native plants in our yard now. So, you know, those little library boxes where you can walk around and pull a book. We've made a native seeds box in our yard for people to come, and we put seeds out. And I made a Wakelet with a QR code so people can pull up and read about the type of seeds, and they can go take them to their garden.
That is so cool.
That's awesome. I love that.
Coolest way.
I'll pull it up and drop the link.
Please, I want to see that. That is such a fun idea. Does anybody else, are you using Wakelet? Have you done anything as cool as Emily? I don't think we're going to get to that caliber.
I did post, my favorite one is because I have Wakelet installed and it's my homepage that comes up. Yes. It has that save all your tabs link that I use some other third party for. And I love that Wakelet does that now. There it is. Create the collection.
So when you have the extension installed, you should be able to, I'm right clicking on that extension and then I'm going to options here. And so Karen's saying she has this toggled on. So you want to make sure it's toggled on. And what that means is when you click that plus sign for a new tab, it's going to show you these open tabs, and you can hit create collection with tabs and it will save all of your tabs. Karen, I need to be better about that. I'm not really good at it.
The only downside is I don't have particularly great internet. And so if too many tabs can kill it. It doesn't always work, but if you have good internet, it works beautifully. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Well, do you guys have any other questions? Otherwise, I really just want to honor your time and make sure that we wrap up on time so you can get on with your evening. Thank you, Joy. I appreciate it. I thank you for having me. Thank you for letting me share. There's so many things in Wakelet, and of course, classrooms. I just want to end on that. So the classrooms piece that I showed you at the top of your home area, this is a very, very special piece, especially for teachers who are teaching students under 13. This is a safe, secure, moderated space. You can create Wakelet classrooms. You can import from Google Classroom, Microsoft, or Clever. We are working on ClassLink. So just so you know, we are working on making sure that this is really a great experience for everybody. You can disable or enable any of these features. And really what this does, and it's going to be improving over time. I know the product team is just working nonstop on this, but the idea is to make it to where you can send assignments to your students in classroom or in the Wakelet classroom space. So just really beneficial. And if you want more information on that, I definitely could do a quick demo with you and discuss that with you. But again, thank you all so much for having me. I had so much fun and I really have loved getting to know all of you. Reach out to me. I'm always here. So no question is a bad question. Just remember where I came from. I was the naysayer. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Emily, too. I always feel left behind by the newer generation, right? Like I'm just busy gardening and you're like changing the world. But anyway, maybe I'll put some plants out in my little box down front. That'd be a fun thing to do. Anyway, thank you so much, Emily. Thanks for hosting. I will say, you know, I've been in this biz for almost since the internet started at this date. I think I had an ikeepbookmarks.com account early on. William Waller, you are smiling at me because I think you and I are about the same age here. So it is nice to see a product like Wakelet that is evolving. So we don't have to keep changing to different ones.
Absolutely.
We could just use Wakelet. So thank you so much. Anyone
And-
else?
and
Last minute?
I was
things?
going to say, Karen, if
Yes,
any of
ma'am.
you have any suggestions, truly, the team is very open to hearing your feedback. So if there is something that you, your teachers, your district is wanting or looking for, please send that our way. We want to hear from you. We want to evolve with you. So just keep that in mind. We love hearing from you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Tisha. And I
Right.
can attest to that because I stopped by the Wakelet booth at FETC and I was mentioning a few things and they were writing down my suggestions. So they are always evolving. You're right, Karen. It's a
Yes.
great company.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Well, thanks everybody. Sue, happy to see you. You've got a couple extra hours in your day, right? Aren't you out on the West Coast? So good for you.
Dinner time for me. I'm gonna go make some dinner
Are
for my
you-
family.
Good for you. Anyway, always good to see everybody. And we'll see you next month, I think.
Take
Thanks,
care,
everybody.
Bye.
I'm gonna stop that recording now. All that good stuff.